Hello and welcome to ZeldaSpeedRuns. Today we're proud to present you with another A Link to the Past All Dungeons Restricted Major Glitches tournament. I am joined today on commentary by apathyduck and emosaru. And how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. It's actually daytime for me still. I'm looking forward to nighttime because I'll be done with my stuff.
Yeah, I forgot that you're 3 hours behind where I am. So I'm going to, give me a second, I'm going to set them off. Because I had something funny happen with my... Hopefully we should be getting started shortly, so I will talk to you later. Thank you again.
Cool. Thank you for getting us all set up, Nori. And yeah, hi everybody. Welcome to another one of these A Link to the Past Restricted Major Glitches All Dungeons Tournament races. This should be a pretty good one. We've got professional streamer greenHam versus actual gamer caznode. So it should be pretty cool. Like Nori said, I am emosaru, and I am joined by apathyduck. How are you doing, Duck?
I'm all right.
Good deal. You may
About the
recognize
same I was
Duck.
as 2 hours ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say you may recognize Duck from the one of these that he literally just did. So he's a busy boy. It's good times. Yeah. So for anybody who didn't watch the race prior to this or is new to these races, we are running a category here called Restricted Major Glitches All Dungeons. You're going to see some interesting glitches, but nothing that really lets us like skip huge parts, like skip entire dungeons or things like that. We want to play the game. So we're going to play the game, but we're going to do it a little bit unconventionally, and we'll give you guys the scoop on what's going on when we get there. For right now, though, our runners are just making their way through the part of the game we call Escape, which is the bit where we leave our house that we share with our creepy uncle, and he gets his butt kicked, and we take his stuff, and then we try to go save a girl. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to attempt to save a girl. There's unfortunately a really mean guy with a big ball and chain standing outside of her cell, and sometimes he can be a real dick, but if everything goes according to plan, we will save a girl and then walk through some sewers. It's going to be good. So a lot of what's going on in this split is it's pretty subtle. If you're not somebody who runs this game, there's really not a lot of like specific or special tech that's going on here. A lot of this is really just good core kind of fundamental movement skills. So you'll see our runners doing these sort of subtle movements, left into the up or up into the left or right. And what they're doing there is called pumping. Basically trying to maximize Link's movement speed on as many frames as possible by mashing on the D-pad in a particular way. In this room here, we're just going to be taking out this guard. Both runners getting a couple spins on them, so going well, and just trying to get a fast boomerang and grab that key. And we are well on our way to meeting that ball and chain guard, so named because he is a guard who holds a ball and a chain. As I said before, he's kind of a dick. There's also this green guy here. He's like a minor dick. greenHam, unfortunately, you can see we've got a little bit of one of our first examples of sort of problematic RNG here. greenHam had to actually boomerang, whereas Node was able to just walk right by. But yeah, this game is full of dicks. But we are past dick number 1, and we are mashing our way through our first text box dick. So we're well on our way.
How many times are you going to say dick during this?
Until you start talking. That's how long it's going to take.
But yeah, Escape, again, pretty straightforward during all this. If you don't know these guys, which you absolutely should, I mean, these guys are both just really good runners of this game. This is definitely one of the matches I had circled since the group stages came out. So they're right now they're actually both guaranteed to advance based on how the rest of the group went out. So they're both pretty encouraged to just kind of go for it. Both of them have pretty good time so far, so they don't have to worry too much about just at least getting a decent time up. They're both pretty much going to go balls to the wall here. So it could either be a really, really good race with two really, really good times, or it could be just an absolute disaster. So we're looking forward to either of those scenarios. Hopefully it's either really good from both of them or a giant disaster from both of them. 1-1 would be a little disappointing, but
I agree. We have seen an impressive array of disasters so far in this All Dungeons tournament, including some pretty interesting upsets after a few pretty high-end runners have hard-walked themselves a little bit later in the run, so you never know what's going to happen. I know Ham, his strategy has been to grab silvers in the run. I'm assuming that, for the tournament at least. I'm assuming for this run, though, if he's really going all out.
Yeah, I did talk to him before we were doing some practice runs yesterday. He won't be getting silvers. He's been doing this category for a while. He's one of the few people who really have sat down and grinded this category before this tournament came out. So he's an old hat at not getting silvers. So he will be skipping them. I'm pretty sure Kaz is going to be skipping them as well. So this should be, again, really entertaining. Hopefully they'll both get past that Helma wall that is really the main reason you get those silver arrows.
Yeah, it's not a time save. It's really just a consistency win. If you get silvers, there's pretty much no way you're not finishing runs, barring a pretty major failure on a glitch later on. But without them, there's definitely an early wall that puts a reset point in your potential path. So
yeah, if you were just running this just to PB, generally, once you start getting decent times, you won't be getting those silvers. It does become a little annoying to reset, but that Helma fight's about 18 minutes into the run. So you kind of have to sit here and do Eastern and escape over and over again until you can finally get past them. Generally, most people will drop them at some point and just kind of have to deal with the resets that inevitably will happen.
Yeah, so both runners actually got a little bit messed up by some RNG and sewers, and on their way out the back of escape into the sanctuary here. Looks like the timers are a little bit off on my screen, but I think Kaz has maybe a 3 to 5 second lead from the looks of things. But
yeah, it's about 5 seconds. He had a 52 escape versus a 57.
Yeah, so we are still very much that escape time is always interesting, but honestly, for runners who know what they're doing, it's more about the RNG that they got than anything else. So we'll look to see what happens here in this Eastern Palace split, because I'm assuming both of them are going to be going, well, actually, no.
Yes, I yelled at Kaz the other day. I said, if you get a 111 without Citrus, I'm going to scream, and then he went ahead and did it. So,
well, neither of them.
It looks like Ham is also... Yeah, I mean, like I said, Ham is sort of famous for doing the safe, consistent things. We always give Ham kind of some shit for saying that if he did a bootsless run of this run, it would look exactly the same, because he refuses to dash unless it saves a significant amount of time.
Yeah, Ham is my justification for a lot of the things I do.
Yeah, but I mean, Ham was top 10 in this category at one point before we made this tournament, and everyone started, all the really good people started playing it and just really just dumpstering our times. But Ham just likes the safe, consistent strats, even though he's not getting those silvers. He's still going to be Ham. He's still going to play fairly safe and fairly consistent. Ham, because of that, he's got a really good chance to do really well in this tournament. Just being able to do consistent runs, even though if they're not PBs or the best times, just consistency is going to rule this tournament overall in the bracket stage. So he's going to have a real strong advantage there.
Yeah, no question. I mean, if you look at the types of runners who have gotten hit by some of our worst hard locks and soft locks. I mean, that hard lock, that was a 15-minute time loss, for Andy. I think it happened to him.
Yeah, Andy lost 15 minutes. Owase lost 10 minutes on his hard lock. Josh lost 10 minutes on his hard lock. So they definitely happen. They're big things. You know, those hard locks, like, you know, you see those big 10-minute hard locks. Those, if you get those, you can get some pretty big upsets. But again, with Ham, with his consistency, he doesn't need his opponent to hard lock. He really just needs his opponent to make like one mistake, and he's probably going to win the race. For players that have, you know, better times than him, players that have like 111s, 110s, Ham will have a really good shot at all of those. Ham is just kind of like the little, I don't know, like mechanical monkey that just keeps coming at you. Like he's not going to slow down at any point. He's going to get through everything. His runs aren't going to blow up. So you've got to be faster than him, and you've got to be more consistent than him to win.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I met Ham in person at GDQ, and my initial reaction was that he looks a lot like a mechanical monkey. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so it works out. So while we've been talking about tournament strategy and the volatility of this category, both of our runners have made their way through Eastern Palace. We're not saying a lot about what's going on here because, frankly, there's not a lot going on here. There's some interesting room strategy, but the majority of it, honestly, it's like unless you're really actively running the category, it's or the game in general, it's not gonna really help you enjoy it too much more. The important thing is that right after this dungeon, we are going to go get our boots. Boots are great for a few reasons. Number one, they're fashionable. There's some really cool.
That's number one?
Yeah, they're like ostrich, I think. So we're gonna get some cool boots. They're red and they look real nice. They let us go fast. That's super good. They make the game fun, even better. And last but not least, they make it way, way, way easier for us to set up a whole bunch of really cool clips into various walls and such. And that is how we are going to make this category happen. So
yeah, and welcome to the Raiders from Zelda Speedrun 1. Yeah, you showed up at a really weird time because a bunch of stuff's going to happen real quick here, but we'll explain what is going on right after all that stuff happens.
Yeah. So Node first in here talking to our old man friend. He's actually telling us a bunch of interesting stuff about the game. We don't care.
Or know what it says.
We're gonna run. Yeah, doesn't matter. We're gonna go back to the back and we're gonna steal some bombs. Do you want to talk a little bit about what we're gonna use those bombs for in just a second?
Yeah. So we got a bunch of clips coming up here. We're gonna be going up to Death Mountain. We don't have the gloves yet, so we're gonna like kind of break the camera here a little bit and abuse that to get up into the Old Man Cave without the gloves. And then right after that, we're going to do another clip up to the top of Death Mountain. Which saves a little bit of time, avoids a bunch of RNG, and then we're actually going to use those bombs to clip us into a wall, and then we can adjust our pixel position a little bit to actually teleport through that wall, and it actually will put us into pod because all of the underworld is on one giant map. So we're going to be abusing that. We need the mirror, and then it just so happens the way we can get into pod through the underworld is also on Death Mountain. So it's a bunch of little convenient routing here.
Yeah, so because he's a topic of active discussion, we just got to call out. You did see Ham there, ham it up on that overworld screen, taking his time, walking up around, no aggressive dashing. He's just being Ham doing Ham things.
Yeah, dashing there only saves like 7-ish frames, so like, again, with Ham, like anything in that 7 frame range, if it's risky at all, and if you do the dashes, you alert the guards, and then if you don't get your spin speed off the first try, that screen can just turn into absolute shit. So
yeah,
walking there,
Ham did not get his spin speed off first try, so
yeah. So the only time he lost there was the retrying the spin speed instead of having to deal with the guards as well. So this was the second cape we saw on Kaz's screen. It's called what we call Kiki Yeet. The reason we call this stuff Kiki Yeet and what he's about to do is Kiki Skip is normally there's a monkey that makes us pay $100, $110 to get into pod. So we're just skipping all that. We don't want to get the money. We don't even really have a way into Dark World proper yet. So we're just going straight into pod. And we're actually in pod in what we call cave state. The dungeon ID is set by whatever entrance you entered from, and since we entered through a cave, we have all the cave properties. Caves normally don't have keys or big keys or anything like that, so because it's just an uninitialized value, we can actually open doors in this state. So we do it here. This isn't required, it just actually makes the routing a little bit easier in pod. It'll let us go a little bit faster. And then we do have to enter the dungeon properly. Well, quote-unquote properly. The door was still closed. We can just kind of hold down and get in there. So because now that we've loaded the dungeon properly, we can actually get the correct boss drop from this dungeon and actually complete the goal. We actually don't need the crystals at all. It's just part of the goal that for this run that all bosses must be defeated and all prizes need to be collected.
Yep. Sorry, I was just momentarily distracted by something. Node retaining a little bit of that lead here, coming into pod. Pod has, fortunately, a lot of opportunities for leads to shift, especially when they're as small as this is. We've got a bomb jump that we're going to be setting up for shortly, where in order to get the hammer without walking around too much. So we're going to end up with potentially the possibility for a lead shift there, just based on how many buffers people end up doing. But then the big one is we've got Helmsor, the boss of this dungeon. And with both runners having opted to skip silvers, I would argue this is actually one of the scariest, if not the scariest boss fight, then certainly...
It absolutely is the scariest. Yeah. People always say, like, oh, my opinion. No, it's no one would disagree that this is the hardest and scariest boss in this room.
Yeah, and so you're in a situation here where we are, relative to what the game ordinarily expects us to have, we are fairly under-equipped. We've got lower health than we're meant to, although, that's actually almost less of a concern than the fact that we are down a sword from what the game expects us to be. And so our spacing's a little bit different. We're pretty weak right now. So we are in a position where we really have to nail this fight. We're going to be using the hammer to get all of our damage, as opposed to the sword in the last phase, and or having the option to use the sword at least. And the big problem with that is that the hammer hitbox sucks. It sucks a lot. It's very, very small. There are some things we can do to extend it a little bit, but no matter what we do, it sucks. We're likely to see our runners going for these hammer dashes. Doing an item dash with the hammer actually is one of the biggest extensions we can do to the hitbox. It makes it the easiest to get those hammer hits off. But it can be, the timing is a little bit tricky, and you are still right up in the boss's grill when you're doing it. So it can be more than a little bit scary.
Yeah, Kaz kind of used the statue timings to look at just how fast you do this dungeon. Kaz had a 5:30 statue, which is pretty decent. The Ham had a little bit longer than that one, so Kaz is putting up some time here. There's just a lot of time variation in pod. Both these guys are very good, so that there's not going to be a lot of gap forming here. But pod is one of the first segment that you really start noticing how much time like top players put up versus more like mid-range players. So Kaz having a pretty good pod, Ham struggling just a little bit. Some of those like all those clips and everything can just, if they don't go right the first time, it'll slow down for a couple seconds. But Kaz now on that Helmsor fight. The first phase is pretty safe, pretty straightforward, even if he does Fireball. The second phase is basically it's these tail swipes and fireballs at the same time that turn this fight into a living hell. And and Kaz does unfortunately take a death.
Well, there you go.
That squeeze down at the bottom could be kind of a mixed blessing. When you hammer that crystal in Helma's head, it kind of pushes you back. If he's down at the bottom of the wall, you can kind of sneak in a couple of quick ones. But unfortunately, if he does Fireball, there's really not much you can do. And Ham having just an absolute perfect fight, not even taking any damage whatsoever.
Yeah.
And Kaz forgetting to hit this switch. And having a little bit of an archery contest here.
Oh, man. So, Kaz unfortunately going to have to grab another pot of those arrows before he's able to finish the Igor room. That's
he's not. There is a backup in here that's pretty nice to do. It's pretty difficult. I haven't seen too many people actually pull it off. So let's see what he goes with here. Yeah, it looks like he's just kind of doing the normal strat and just dealing with these pots. Like there is a backup if you have at least 2 arrows coming in there. There is a backup strat you can do to collect both the pots and get through the room fairly cleanly. But it is a difficult strat to do.
Yeah, no question. So again, this is just one of those things. This is how volatile this category is, right? Helma is not a great boss in almost any speedrun category that you'll see for this game, but in this category, he's especially punishing for sure. Node honestly doing more or less what he could, under those conditions, but having taken the hit earlier, and then getting pinned down at the bottom, it's pretty, it's almost out of your hands past a certain point, how bad you're going to get bopped.
Yeah, he did miss a hammer, which I think if he got would have let him get through the fight. And for a second I thought he was going to survive it, but he was 1 hammer short. Oh, he does take another. Yeah, you don't want to take hits on phase 1. Oh no. Oh.
Yeah, I think Noted actually, it was either Node or Ham, I think, had ended up doing a sword spin at some point in the first fight, but here we go.
Yeah, see, and that's the big, so a lot of things with this fight is you kind of want to use your health as another, resource. Like you can if you get hit, if you come into the second part of that phase with full hearts, you can kind of take a hit of damage on purpose and use your iframes to get another hammer in. So you really, really, really don't want to take any damage in the first phase. That's generally when the fight gets really scary, is when you do that. But yeah, at this point, I mean, Ham has a pretty commanding lead. Each of these deaths is about a 2-minute time loss. As we were saying, we were kind of talking up Ham before, where he's just really consistent with most of his strats. So there's really only a couple of things at this point that could potentially put this back into contention.
Yeah, honestly, outside of just a really catastrophic failure in a dungeon, I mean, even at this point with this kind of lead, a lot of the clips that can result in, whether it's hard locks or other things, most of the clips would be soft locks, but at this point, Ham has the luxury of being able to take his time, frankly, and almost none of them are scary if you're taking your time. It's really only when you're trying to go fast and your thumb accidentally taps up, when you don't mean to, right? That's how you get in trouble. And Ham really doesn't have a whole lot to worry about in that regard at this point.
Yeah, and the way the tournament's structured, where your record only affects if you advance or not, or guarantees you advancement, and then seeding in the next round is purely on time. The actual race matters a little bit less than just the times he puts up, so it'd be nice for Ham to get the win here and go 3-0 in his groups, especially against an opponent like caznode. But mainly it's just going to be, he's going to be trying to put up the best time possible. And Kaz struggling again, getting down to 1 heart, fortunately able to finally get through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, though, I mean, Ham can take the extra, second on, the contentious clips, your IP mirror wrap and that sort of stuff, and, still put up a time that's, absolutely going to get him where he needs to go for seeding.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a pretty good, both of them are pretty good spots seeding anyways. At this point, this is pretty much guaranteed to be Kaznode's drop. Both his other races were really solid. So Kaz is kind of just playing along for fun at this point. Yeah, but while we were talking about all that, greenHam did all of Tower of Terror, so that's fun.
Yeah, it's a cool dungeon. It's got a bomb jump in it.
More
importantly, we got our moon pearl. So now we can be in the dark world. We still don't actually have any way to get into the dark world, but we can be in the dark world. But we need to go do some dark world dungeons now. So rather than having to go get our way into the dark world normally, we're just going to use the one dark world warp that we have access to and then clip our way down Death Mountain into the rest of the dark world. We see a little bit of weird tile stuff. Depending on which part of the world you're in, the game actually loads different tile sets. We'll see this again later. But because we clipped down from the mountain in a sort of unnatural way, we've actually got the mountain tile set on the overworld there. But now we are in Thieves Town. Thieves Town is a, generally speaking, not a terribly scary dungeon. It's actually one of the safest boss fights to deal with.
You think so?
In the whole game. Well, did you know, Duck, that blind is a scripted fight? If you do it, so the problem is that if you do everything, the same way, you're gonna have the same fight. So it really just comes down to how consistent are you on your movement, how consistent are you on your timing in that fight. And there are a number of different strats for lining things up time-wise and position-wise, but all of these runners, whether they do the same thing or not, they've all got a method that works for them. And by and large, this is not a place you're going to see too many failures. This room that Ham is coming up on here is called the Hellway. And this is one of the either friendliest or unfriendliest rooms in the dungeon. Ham actually got a good one, so he was able to land on that middle pixel perfectly and got favorable enemy RNG and was able to dash all the way up in one go.
Yeah, he didn't even get any lag. Depending on where the enemies are, you can get lag on that room, which kind of feels bad that you got through it, but it still went slow just because of where the enemies were on the screen. So getting a lagless Hellway like that is always a pretty good feeling. That room by itself pretty much determines once you have a handful or a bunch of runs down. That room by itself pretty much determines whether your split's even goldable or not.
Yeah, there's a little bit of time, time affecting stuff that happens down in the basement here, but nothing so impactful as that Hellway. When that Hellway gives you bad RNG, that room can just be a giant slog to get through.
Yeah, and Ham's going to be showing us another one of his famous safe strats here. There's actually a bomb strat in here. They use a bomb to kill that right Stalfos. It's a little tricky, though, and it can go poorly and just waste a lot of time. So Ham just opts to use the hammer. He got pretty good RNG there. If you get RNG like that, the hammer strat doesn't actually lose all that much time.
Yeah, I do a lot of Ham strats, but I would like to point out that even I do the bomb strat in that room. So Ham going to be the first here in Thieves Town to pick up our Titan's Mitts. So this is actually the second pair of gloves that we ordinarily get in the game. But we are skipping the first one entirely. We're just going to jump to the level 2 ones. So having acquired these gloves, we now actually have natural access to the Dark World in a few ways. So we won't have to be clipping our way into the Dark World anymore. There will be plenty more clips to come, but none of them for the express purpose of getting into the Dark World.
Yeah, we actually only go in the Dark World naturally once in this entire run. I was thinking about it. We kind of abused, we abused the heck out of this Dark World portal up here, up on Death Mountain, which doesn't even require a glove. Turns out when you can glitch, you don't really need to get into Dark World normally all that much.
Ham cleaning up his blind fight nicely.
Yeah, so you can see Ham's got about pretty much the entirety of the Thieves Town split lead, which makes this is about a 5-minute split, and Helm and Deaths are about 2 minutes. So this doesn't make sense. Yeah, by Ham's or Kaz's splits, he's plus 420 on his PB, and he's got a really good PB too. So.
Yeah, any one of these deaths or soft locks or, God forbid the hard lock, it's pretty debilitating.
All right, it's 422, you bunch of memers, Jesus.
420. Less than an hour from now.
It is. Meanwhile, speaking of paces, Ham's actually minus 30 on his PB, so he's having, despite Kaz's, issues, I guess we'll say on Helmosaur, Ham is having quite a good run. I know his PB splits aren't the greatest up until this point. He made up most of his time in the end game on his normal PB, but still being minus 30 at this point is really good. So Ham is having quite the run.
Yeah, he's definitely in the position of having opportunity. We can see here Ham not going for what we call Frog Door here. Frog Door being the actually before I talk about that, Node did not get the good RNG in the hallway there. In case anybody was wondering what that looks like, he got lost right out of contention for doing that room quickly. But Ham just walking up and talking to our little froggy friend normally, maybe a little bit scared of that hard walk that has afflicted a couple people so far in this tournament.
Well, that and Ham is the one who figured out the world's silliest quick dash into the quick warp, so he does have a certain affinity for this old strat. And the frog door only saves like 20, it's like 20 to 40 frames. I forget exactly. It's not a big deal. But yeah, with the risk of hard locking. It is not optimal, but I don't think Ham really cares. So we are getting our Tempered Sword. We do need something better than Fighter Sword to beat Ganon. Tempered Sword is generally the sword we pick up in most runs. Basically, unless it's a hundo run, or some reason you actually need the Gold Sword. We never get it. Gold Sword has a hard requirement of having Tempered, and it's really not much more powerful, or can kill anything that much quicker. So it's never really gotten in any other run besides 100% runs.
Yeah, with having acquired this sword as well, we are now we're basically in a position where we are back where we're expected to be, or where runners expect to be, in the more commonly viewed no major glitches, any percent category. So we're basically we're back up to kind of normal on the damage scale. So from this point on, a lot of the boss fights, a lot of the damage that you're doing to enemies in the dungeon and in the overworld when you're dashing through screens and things like that, it's now sort of back to normal for these runners. So it gets a good bit more comfortable.
Yeah, since we kind of just rearranged the order, we do all the dungeons here. Like the beginning becomes, we do some pretty difficult dungeons up front, and then we do other dungeons much later than we would normally, and they become much easier to do. So it's like the actual difficulty curve in this run, it's pretty front-loaded. We have to do things that are more difficult energy in the beginning, and then in the back half, things become a little bit easier to do, from mainly from a health perspective. We will have mostly the same items. We don't really get benefits from anything like that. Kaz is showing off what happens when the blind fight goes wrong. But he does able to clean it up, not dying again. That's a pretty bad boss to die on. It's probably one of the more embarrassing deaths that you can take, as was mentioned. It is a scripted fight, and B, when you come back, you're going to you're going to have the Fighter Sword. Blind's going to start at the top of the room, so it's no longer a scripted fight. And without Fighter Sword, you can't get beams, which can really make that fight a little easier. And then C, you're going to be in Fake Dark World, which has a couple nasty effects that you'll have to fix and lose any more time on. So definitely do not want to die to Blind. I've seen a lot of runners just go ahead and reset their runs if they die to Blind, just for a multitude of reasons. Yeah,
the fight gets not even incrementally harder. It gets a lot harder, on the death cycle, if you want to talk about it that way. I think it still is technically scripted. It's just a completely different script that's a giant pain in the ass to deal with that nobody wants to figure out. So,
we don't really come. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You say it.
I was just saying no one really comes up with backups for things that have already cost you the run. No one's really sitting down and I'm going to spend 3 hours to figure out the Deathblind script. Although someone would, it would be Ham, to be honest.
That's actually 100% true. Now, Node is setting up here for Frog Door, the optimal strat here. So let's hope and pray that he does not press the A button on the wrong frame.
Okay. Well, he did press it on the wrong frame, but he pressed it on
not the wrong frame. Yeah,
he pressed it on the better wrong frame. He actually was only able to talk to the frog point. Usually you have to pick up both those rocks to end up talking to the frog. So, basically like that, where he picked up an extra rock. At that point, it's basically just equivalent to what the other strat would be, because picking up a rock takes about 20 frames, about 20 frames faster, so you really didn't lose anything at that point.
Yeah. A couple things that we didn't bring up. That chat was pointing out. It is important to note that while Ham's timer will not reflect this, he did actually save 20 minutes by getting Defense Dash on this overworld. We'll have to see if Node does that as well. He did get the fence dash. He did also have a pretty nice moth.
Yeah, he got the fat gold from that fence dash.
Yeah, the hot 1/10 of a second gold.
I don't. That says 20 years to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it depends whether you're talking about metric or imperial years, I guess.
So we're going back up to Tower of Hera right now. That clip we didn't really talk about before. It's called the one particular one that that Ham did is called the fast Hera clip because it is the fast version of it. Surprisingly, we do that clip. Yeah. It's either the most obvious name like fast Hera clip or something just completely insane like Kiki Yeet. There's nothing in between. Like it's either a meme name or we just like describe what it is in the name. But we do use that clip about 3 times in the run. The other version of it, there's like a spin speed version. It's a little like around like 2 seconds slower. So if you can get good at the fast clip, it pays off quite nicely with being about 6 seconds faster over the entire run. Although you do have to do it well enough that you can save time with it 3 times.
Yeah, and that clip does come up a number of times in the run. So it, like Duck was saying, it really does pay off. You know, more than it might seem, obviously. Or initially. Ham is currently in the middle of doing some necessary errands. He's got a little bit of busy work to do in order to set ourselves up for the dungeons we need to finish going forward. First thing he did was he grabbed the Ether Medallion, which we're going to use to open Misery Mire not too long from now. And we also need to pick up the Flippers in order to do Swamp Palace. Now, technically, we don't strictly need the Flippers. We have ways around most of it. I think we even have a way. We don't have a way around Swamp Palace yet, but
no, the Michael Phelps room is the one that tends to kill you.
Yeah, but we have ways around it for most of the things. But now is the best time that we have to pick up both of them, and thanks to a little clip back down the mountain to get into Zora's domain fast, it makes sense to just stack it up with.
Yeah, Ham picking up exactly 1 heart. Okay,
yeah.
That has got to be
calculated.
That's got to be some sort of like Ham math where it's like, well, if I take 4 hearts of damage from a bomber, this will put me at exactly like the right amount of hearts for something. But
yeah. Now speaking of the bomber.
Yeah, speaking of the bomber, we're going to. I've been saying this every commentary, but this is a strat that I've effectively been calling the plain ham sandwich. There's a couple clips you can do on the screen, or you can say screw it and not do any of the strats. And so in honor of the one and only greenHam, it has been dubbed the plain ham sandwich. And there it is, in all of its true glory.
Yeah, I like the plain ham sandwich, although occasionally I'll get saucy and go for the heretical Wayne clip.
It's Wayne out here leading the Protestant church of clips. Anyways, we're in Desert Palace now. We did a little teleport there. Again, similar to how the bomb clips work, the way this nest works is everything wants to be on like 4x4 tiles. So you have to do a little like trickery at like the programming level to actually get diagonals to work. And they didn't do the trickery good enough. And if you're on the exact right pixel, the math for Link's positioning kind of goes a little wonky, and it throws us up a bunch of pixels in either direction. So we can abuse that to kind of like jump up to places where we shouldn't be. They all work pretty much exactly the same on any slope, so once you know how to do one, you can do them pretty much anywhere. But that one allows us to skip the flute. We can go straight into the Misery Mire area. We're going to make a quick pit stop in Desert. We just need to get a couple things here, we just need the big key here, and we can go beat Lambo. Yeah, it's unfortunate because Kaz is staying like right on top of his PB. He's only lost a couple seconds over his PB since the Palace of Darkness split. His run has pretty much been totally those 2 mistakes on Helma, which again just happens to everyone. Literally everyone has died to that boss multiple times.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Ham putting the plain ham sandwich in chat right now.
Oh, that's excellent. I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's just
fantastic.
It's just sandwich, but it's from Ham.
Oh, so. Now I'm disappointed. I feel like
it's not like he made an emote, but he probably should.
Yeah, I may have to make one for him.
Gotta get those bit rewards.
Yeah, it's very important. So Lambola, the fight that Ham's coming up on, one of the few points in the game where this category actually makes it way easier and way more consistent. Having the fire rod here basically makes the fight free. In the No Major Glitches speedrun, we get here much earlier, and we're doing it with just the regular bow and arrow, and the fight is very RNG heavy at that point. But with the fire rod, while there is the RNG on the first phase, it's way more likely that you can clean it up without taking any more time.
Ham the only split Ham has lost time on over his PB is Eastern, and he only lost a little over a second there, so he's crushing it right now.
Yeah, he's holding on I mean, obviously he's holding on to the lead over Node for sure, but holding on to that PB possibility, no question. We do have a lot of RNG coming up at the end of the run. It's one of the worst things about this category, or the least enjoyable things about this category.
Yeah. Actually, Ham,
positive way to put it, but
I know that Ham actually prefers it there, because it's the one nice thing about having RNG at the end is you don't have to worry about like losing a 0 blue ball run or like throwing the run. So you just kind of don't have to worry about it. So some people, Ham included, do actually prefer it being at the end.
I don't understand those people, but yeah, that's fair.
I don't understand a lot of things Ham says. So, but anyways, we're in Misery Mire now. This is a split that is one of the more different splits than you would see normally. The main reason it's different, we're actually going to be using the way the dungeon ID system works. By going into Swamp Palace here and getting the hookshot in this segment instead of doing it in the Swamp segment. Doing that whole left side Swamp stuff is just horrendously long, so we actually can clip into Hera and clip into Swamp, get the hookshot here in this segment, and it actually ends up being faster. So it skips a bunch of stuff. It does make this, it has probably especially for like newer players, probably the most difficult clip in it, the Swamp to Hera clip. That can really, this segment can really just completely destroy your run, so we're really looking for Ham to have a good one here, keep on that PB pace, but when things go wrong, a lot of times it is because of Mire, and then after Mire, we're really going to be sort of entering the gauntlet of dungeons. We're really going to be rattling them off very quickly after this.
Yeah, I mean, as a newer runner and a less experienced runner, I mean, this is the split that scares me more than anything else. There's a sequence of clips here that you're intending to do, and while they're not actually required, right? We could, just go get the hookshot normally in Swamp, but it saves a pretty decent chunk of time to do it here.
It's like 40 seconds. So
yeah,
it's a chunk of time you don't like. It's especially when you're in this like 112 level. You're not going to turn down 40 seconds no matter how difficult it is.
Yeah, no question. And so, but you're in a situation where these are 2 clips in a row. The first one's fairly free. Nothing's ever 100% free, but fairly free. But the second one involves some 1 pixel movement things, and there are a few different options for buffering the inputs to do that. And people do get very consistent at doing those buffers, but there's always the chance, right, of getting that rogue 2 pixel movement on the frame where you don't want it, and ending up wasting a bunch of time trying over and over again. So
yeah, the other kind of cool thing, or horrible thing, depending on your perspective, about Misery Mire is, as rough as this split kind of already is, for some reason all of the like corrupt bullshit that we keep thinking of to do happens to be in the Mire split. We keep thinking of new dumb things to do in this split that are incredibly difficult, that would save like a second. So you can really make this split as difficult as you want it to. Hopefully Kaz will go for some of the really silly stuff, because his run is pretty over at this point, unfortunately.
I would say so, yeah. But Ham making it through first try. You need a few extra swings of a sword to get that 1 frame movement up, that last one that he needed. But makes it happen. It's a really painful clip to mess up, because the bomb routing, more than anything else in this category, is relatively tight. You have a little bit of wiggle room, but when things go wrong, it can get very punishing very quickly. So getting that clip first try, not having to use any additional bombs than expected, is always a good thing.
Yeah, and now we got to come back through the beginning of Misery Mire, this Ham actually is showing off the little strat that I played around with, developed a little bit. Fire rotting that first wizard gives you a chance at a heart drop right away, and it gives you beams to the rest of the room. There is you can actually skip that bomb clip in Swamp to preserve your beams, but you got to do a really difficult sword clip that only a handful of people even go for. But
yeah, I think Andy is one of the few people that actually goes for it.
Andy, Ari's been going for it. Zero goes for it. Zelda does it. So I mean, I basically just rattled off the top 5 in this category. So besides them, not many people go for it. It's just a really difficult strat. A lot of times you're gonna lose time for it. The bomb strat, I always say, like, it's difficult because you got to do 2 1-frame buffers in a row. The sword, you got to do like 5 in a row, so it's pretty nasty.
Yeah, well, and 2 out of that group of people, at the very least, right, are definitely kind of old boys of the game. And one interesting thing about this category is it's become a lot more approachable as these bomb-based clips have actually been discovered. So for quite a while, those sword clips were actually the only way that we knew to do some of those clips. That made it a pretty beginner-unfriendly category. But with the advent of these bomb clips and a number of the other setups that we've got, it's actually become quite approachable in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was about like 2 years ago where those were just, I definitely did this run after they were found. And really after those is when kind of talk of like having some sort of AD tournament first started creeping up, and just because we're all inherently lazy people, we just got around to it now, so.
Yep, we missed it. We'll hopefully see it on Node's side again in just a little bit, but Ham did manage to get the spooky action glitch there in the basement of Mire, which saves a little bit of time by, I think it's like 12 seconds or so. It's actually a little bit less in this category because we don't get the full version of it that we would see in the No Major Glitches speedrun, but I think we get about half the time save from having to, maybe a little bit more, from having to bomb a wall up into another room and hit a switch. So we're able to skip that by actually activating that switch from the room below using some fire rod shenanigans.
Yeah, Ham again did have a very nice mind. I don't know if he's gonna be saving time on this. Probably will. He had like a 7. Looks like he had 7:18 in his PB. But anyway, he got through this split cleanly enough that this split can just completely destroy your run, completely destroy any chance of PBing. So he certainly got through it fast enough. For those, also we use the torches time a lot just to kind of judge your pace. It's more of a holdover for NMG where it's like exactly 20 minutes from the end game. It doesn't have really the same link to endgame here, but it's kind of right before the gauntlet of dungeons we got to do, and just because we're used to doing it. But Ham had a 40:25, which is a really good time. That is certainly good enough for 1:11. And Ham's PB right now is at 12:59, so he's having quite a very good run, and he did once again save time on that Misery Mire split.
Yep, so Ham going for a slightly safer clip here to get out of the Misery Mire area. We still don't have the flute, and even if we did, we'd have to mirror, and that'd be pretty slow. So we're just going to clip out of the Misery Mire area, and we're going to head over to Swamp Palace. The nice thing about doing Swamp in Mire the way that we do, or getting the hook shot while we're inside of the Mire split the way that we do, is that Swamp Palace now becomes very, very quick. By getting the hook shot early, we have allowed ourselves to grab a key, a small key, on our first trip into the main room in the dungeon, and that's going to allow us to effectively skip doing the entire left-hand side of the dungeon. And that is where we get a lot of our time saved. That left-hand side to get the hook shot required to get that small key is, and get to the back of the dungeon is pretty substantial.
We still get the key, it's just that we don't need the big key for Swamp because there's just not a big key door in front of the boss for some reason. So we have the hook shot. The hook shot is required to get the small key to get to the back of the dungeon. Which is kind of what the developers use in lieu of a big key. They put this small key behind the hook shot. But since we already did that, we can just hook shot straight to it. We also, because we raised the water in the previous segment, we can skip all of that too. And we just go straight to the back of the boss. So this whole segment can be done in under 4 minutes, especially with the use of this new glitch that Ham's will be showing off here in a second, called Holy Diver, I suppose, or Diver Down, whatever the hell people want to call it. We're a fickle bunch. We can't agree on anything. We're just using the Samaria block again. It's another one frame buffer right here. Him having a little trouble with it, but recovering nicely and getting through.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing about the game where, come to find out, the tiles that would make you swim there only exist for the first little bit, only in certain parts of that water area. So if you can actually get onto those tiles that look like water without having to go the normal way, you're actually kind of just good to go. The water's more cosmetic in most of the room than anything else.
Yeah, there's actually other glitch runs that we do the exact opposite, where instead of walking on water, we swim through land. So it's really just Link. It's a completely cosmetic thing, and then Link's state is just kind of controlled by other things. Ham, unfortunately, missing the 0 cycle here. Cleans it up fairly nicely though. He does look like he's running against like a 4-12 Salt though, so it looks like he is going to again save some time here. Just missing the 0 cycle with Diver down. Missing the 0 cycle is not going to be that bad of that slow of a segment.
Yeah, and even then, not going for menu buffers and things like that. I think he was still pretty close to even on a 1 menu buffer version of that glitch. He didn't spend that much time sort of bumping up and down. So
yeah, he didn't lose too much time from not getting it right away. Again, Kaz is sort of having we've sort of most have been paying attention to Ham just because the issues Kaz had. Kaz is having, besides the 2 helmet deaths, he is having a solid run. He was just kind of staying right on top of the amount of delta he had after Helma. Yeah. So this is a really solid run for him. I've noticed a couple little mistakes, but he would definitely be right. This would be a really, really good race if it wasn't for the helmet deaths, unfortunately. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, I think we've seen that from a lot of our runners. And I mean, again, it just goes to show you how the volatility in this category works, right? It's a one-time kind of thing. There are a few choke points, and people get pretty hacked up. But I think we've seen a lot of otherwise good runs, right, with just 1 or 2 major time losses.
Yeah, it's one of the downsides of this in a race setting is one of the big things that can blow open a race happens fairly early on in the run, that Helma. So when it does happen, when one person dies to Helma, other person doesn't, it can make a lot of the race trigger. You're sort of rooting for the other person almost to, we're not rooting, but it kind of requires the other person to make a equivalently large mistake for it to put it back in contention. But Ham, once again, he did save time on that swamp. Had a decent swamp, but we're just missing the 0 cycle. We're seeing another glitch here, another bunch of 1-frame inputs. This is Icebreaker, came out like the same exact time as that Diver Down clip. Him kind of showing off what can go wrong with this. This one can be a little nastier if you mess it up first try. But he does recover. He's also running against like a 329 ice, so even with that mistake, he can definitely save time here. He might be getting the rare save time in every split PB.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that, given that he uses the bomb in the previous room to blow open the door and hit the switch being the important part of what we're doing there. But it was a little bit interesting to see that he actually did the fixing of the Samaria block on his first Samaria block, as opposed to maybe just resetting the door and using another block. So I think you can use up to 4 in that room.
Yeah,
you have a magic problem. So.
Yeah, especially because some people do a cane dash to open that switch, which would be 1 Samaria use. You have 4 before you have to kind of like find more magic. You have 2 before you have to pick up a second magic pot here in Cold Stare, or right before Cold Stare, which doesn't take that much time, but if you can avoid it, it's definitely nice. So yeah, a little surprising where because trying to fix it like in the air is pretty bad. So I think it would have been a little bit better if he just went ahead and tried to use the second one right off the bat before switching to that backup strat.
Yeah, I mean, again, still not really a big issue, just an interesting choice,
Ooh, and his Cold Stare is getting away from him.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a
affectionately called the Cold Stare party. The one you do have. This is one of the segments that again actually becomes easier than it would in MG. You actually have to carry more health into this fight than you would normally. The other cool thing is we've seen this from a couple runners is the blue mail has actually become a viable safety now with that Icebreaker, because it puts us right next to the big key. So we can take that, and then the blue mail is actually not that far out of the way. So I have seen a couple runners actually pick that up, and would make it, the biggest benefit is actually on the cold stare fight. But it is now a viable safety to get blue mail, which is the first time I've ever seen that in any category where the blue mail is, because normally that big key was just on the moon basically, so no one would bother getting it.
Yeah, it used to be that, you know, if people really wanted an armor safety, you were pretty much waiting until Ganon's Tower to optionally grab the red mail, which is still very slow, but a lot slower than getting the blue mail. And frankly, getting the blue mail is the biggest benefit that you're going to see. So it's pretty cool that this category allows that.
All right, that icebreaker was a little shittier than I thought it was. He did actually end up losing time on that segment.
He had the cold stare situation.
Right.
That was actually the biggest part of the time loss. So you know, I think he would have been, you know, maybe actually saving 3 or 4 seconds without the cold stare party, even with the icebreaker issues. Yeah,
probably. Yeah, because I mean his ice battles and his PB was also kind of a little rough. I was running with Ham yesterday. He was like, "Man, my PB splits are really bad," and I'm just kind of now seeing how bad they actually are. So he's just a solid run like this. I mean, Ham is still with he has a plus 26 over his gold in Ice Palace, and he's still 38 seconds ahead. So Ham is obviously a lot better than what his PB shows.
Yeah. So Node going for his Ice Palace mirror wrap. Unfortunately, a little bit off his mark here.
He just didn't hit 2 buttons at the same time.
He didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also don't think he hit up before he did it. So he was he was a little bit. I don't think he had popped it down the way that he expected to, and it threw him off a little bit.
Meanwhile, so similar to the Ice Palace mirror wrap that caznode just saw, we're gonna do sort of a similar thing. We use the mirror in the same frame that we transition screens, and we're gonna do another mirror wrap up here, and this actually puts us perfectly right on Laser Bridge. This allows us to skip Quake, and this makes Turtle Rock a lot easier and a lot faster and a lot safer. We were going to end up going through most of this dungeon backwards, just the back half of it, get the big key, and then mirror back to this door. Since we're going through it not a way the developer intended us to, it turns out it's actually a lot easier to do.
Yeah, substantially.
Yeah, a lot of the really
all the worst rooms in this game. All the worst rooms in this dungeon are just gone. We don't even see them.
Yeah, and the ones that we do see, like Pokies 2,
we don't have to do. We just walk through.
Yeah, unless you're SNES Charmers, you don't actually kill either of the Pokies in that room.
Did he actually?
Because his first run, he sat there and killed both Pokies before walking out the top, and I'm sitting like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, so Ham getting a little bit messed up by one of the few things that's actually finicky in this dungeon. Once that clip is done, which is actually just walking low enough on those pegs to get iframes, but still be able to walk off the bottom. It's really easy to just be like 1 or 2 pixels too high, and you get kind of stuck there. Fairly quick fix, but yeah.
The funny thing, you don't actually need the iframes there. Part of the reason that room is difficult is because the roller hurt box is a little bit deceiving. The little roller at the end isn't actually part of the hurt box, so you can actually walk into it a little bit, and just with the timing in that room goes, you can actually cleanly walk by. As long as you do the 1/up, you can cleanly walk by the roller. So getting the iframes actually doesn't matter, but like, it's something that can throw you off, at least mentally. It makes it a little tricky.
Yep, so Ham getting that RNG that I freaking hate.
It's the fastest one.
No,
it's the fastest.
I know.
How could you hate the fastest RNG?
It sucks though when it feels real bad when you end up slightly off and hitting that switch 3 times though. I don't. It always just feels real bad when you're hitting that switch 3 times. The game just falls to a halt.
Ham TGHing it a little bit in this room.
A little bit. It's not the full TGH, but it's
I mean, the full TGH would be a thing to behold. I think Ham would actually be behind his PB if he went full TGH.
Yeah. That was like a half TG.
It's quarter TG.
Quarter TG. Okay.
Again, I mean, Ham does have significant time to save in this split. He may not even be losing time despite some of the issues he had. So again, just a really solid run the entire way.
Yeah, Ham
doing
also...
all like, I was just say doing like this little gauntlet of dungeons, this whole like swamp to Ice Palace to Turtle Rock cleanly is I don't think anyone's ever actually done it. I think maybe Zelda in his world record run had 3 clean segments, but besides that, literally impossible to do.
Yeah, Ham also continuing to uphold his reputation as a relatively sane human being who makes reasonable life choices often enough by not going for really memey poke dashes on Trinex. So.
But
so that was good. Yeah, well,
he even got the fairy drop. It would save 32 frames. It's a massive amount of time.
Yeah, in order to save the frames, it has to go right, and I feel like
that's right all the time.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know about that. I feel like I see it go wrong a lot, but maybe that's just me.
Maybe you're the reason it's going wrong.
Okay, well. That's the most compelling argument I've heard so far. But meanwhile, Node making his way into his Turtle Rock mirror wrap.
Yeah, and then we do, so since we never opened up Turtle Rock normally, we get stuck in the head. We got to save and quit, and coming out here. Ham, again, being the
man
little safe boy.
Ham, talking to the old man.
Getting the smooches from the creepy old man who lives in the cave, which heals you up for some reason. Little terrifying, honestly. So that's the first. We've come save and quit this old man a couple times, and no one has talked to him yet. Most of these segments are pretty safe. Like the Hera one, you'd only get 2 hearts, so it's pretty unworth it. Like we said, Turtle Rock is a lot easier because we do it this funky way. GT is not only the hardest one and the one you're most likely to take it. It also saves the least amount of time unless you try some really try hard stuff where you still take damage boosts. Most players who do take the old man or don't skip the old man heal. We'll do a little bit safer strat in the 2nd floor of Ganda's Tower. So skipping the talk there doesn't save as much time, or it's even more risky. Conversely, I expect him to actually do the normal NMG strat in that room. So he won't lose nearly as much time by talking to him there. So it is both the most important one to take, and is also the one that loses the most amount of time compared to what the majority of runners do.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said too for runners who run a bunch of categories of this game, right? And certainly Ham is one of those folks. When you have so much muscle memory, for example, the No Major Glitches speedrun, even just the opportunity to just say, I know what I need to do, right? If you're not looking to shave off those last few seconds, at this point, just going with something that you're comfortable with and that you can just bust out almost in your sleep can oftentimes be an advantage.
Yeah, there's a couple of places in this run that you're kind of doing the same thing as NMG, but you're supposed to do it a little slightly different, and it can be really tough to keep in your head. So just saying screw it and doing the same thing can be a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those, consistency versus kind of maximum achievable or minimum achievable time, I guess, really. But over the course of a few hundred runs, that consistency angle really starts to pay dividends. When a lot of getting PBs in this game, and especially in this category, is just doing runs, right? We've got all of our RNG is stacked at the end. Getting consistently on pace runs to the end of the game is how you're going to get your PBs. So
yeah, the whole Link to the Past community in general kind of, I think, prays at the Church of Consistency, probably more than any other speedrun community, just because there's so much RNG in this game, and most of our try-hard strats are only faster by frames. That a lot of it just comes out in the wash and in the noise. That just being consistent is the most important thing in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the world record holders in almost every category, the defining characteristic of them as runners, when you watch their play, is just really, really good consistency, right? It's always getting the stuff that they're in control of and dealing with the stuff that they're not. So
yeah, the mana invariance that like some of like the really top guys have in this, like in per run to run, is just absolutely nutty to me.
Yeah, I it's hard to even fathom for me sometimes, but you're a good bit closer to that than I am.
I mean, even between like me and like someone like Zelda, it's just like an ocean of difference, honestly. Like,
yeah, but I got like a couple planets.
Ocean,
so
ocean plus a bay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ham made it through the gauntlet. It was just 5 killers in a row. It's the main source of RNG in games that has had a pretty good one. Moving now into the Lamo 2 fight. Again, this Lamo 2 can kind of just take away the one fight cycle from you. Ham standing like he's going to get a drop off of that Lamo, which he's not. I think he was just baiting the fireball, but I'd want to throw some shade.
Yeah, we've got 3 of these boss refights here in GT, and they're all sort of, you know, boss name with a twist, right? So, Lambolus there is the least concerning one in some ways, but also the most frustrating one in others, because we've got that fireball shooter in the room, and that thing is actually a way bigger pain in the butt than you might seem, you know, right off the bat. Most of the time when you're going to lose your one cycle fight there, it's going to be because you got weirdly bopped by that guy and you got bad RNG on one of the Lambos and the cops. So.
Yeah. I think boss refight with a twist was like the developer's intention, and like they kind of started strong with like putting Armos on ice, and that makes the fight a lot different. And then like they got to Lambo and they're like, I don't know, just put a shooter in the room. And then they got to Moldorm, which is like just a different shape. Like each one gets less and less creative. Like it feels like they were designing a games tower at like 4 p.m. on a Friday or something.
I mean, they might have been. You know, there's a lot of mandatory corporate drinking to do after work. Sometimes you just gotta finish things.
Yeah, so Ham having, you can kind of tell that like someone's like quality of GT, like kind of by that Moldorm kill. Ham having a pretty solid one overall. Just looking at, looks like he's probably going to be lose a little time over his PB here. So like I said, like I said a lot earlier, his PB was pretty weak to start with, and then he had a pretty good end game. He's kind of doing the exact opposite here. He had a really excellent opening. In this run, and then has had a little trouble in the last couple splits.
Although only a little bit, you know. I mean, I think the amount of time that we're looking at losing here is this is, you know, RNG willing. We are in our first, you know, big pile of RNG here.
And he's not getting good RNG.
Aghanim 2 fight. No, he is not. This is not a friendly Aghanim 2 fight. But I think that was still a 3 cycle.
Might have been a 4. But yeah, I mean, when I say like he's like losing, like I'm talking Ham is on PB phase. I'm analyzing this from my PB perspective, where like losing 10 seconds in a segment is like a disaster almost. Just from a normal, I guess, human person. I dare you to do this run over and over again and only lose 10 seconds in a segment. Like,
yeah, absolutely. It looks like we're losing
these critiques are very, very detailed at this point.
Yeah, meanwhile, on Node side, we've slipped a little bit time-wise throughout Ice and Turtle Rock. Node also had a little bit of trouble in the Cold Stare fight, if I remember correctly. But you know, again, still on what, without those 2 Helma Dusts, would be a thoroughly, you know, decent, if not necessarily PB pace run right now. You know, really, he's been doing a good job holding it together ever since those early deaths, and that's no joke. You know, just from a mental standpoint, keeping a run going after that and actually holding things pretty stable is
this would
not
be like
the easiest thing to do.
This would probably be a 111 from Kaz, if not for the one mistake, which is something that I am quite familiar with. So. But yeah, Ham going up through Aga Tower. Aga Tower is a pretty straightforward dungeon. There's some difficult strats you can do in here, but it's honestly, it's one of those dungeons you don't really bother optimizing till you get to some very, very good times. It's not going to kill your run. You're going to like maybe you can like save 5 seconds here, and that feels kind of nice. It's a nice little bonus. But it's not really going to be a determining factor in your overall run. So just kind of get through it. Like I said, there are a couple harder things you can do, but it's really not too big of a deal.
Yeah, now Ham is doing some strats here that I have not actually seen. So he actually did a blue boomerang strat in the dark guard, the dark room with the key guard, and that has basically put him on the NMG menu here. So it'll be interesting to see if we actually get the hookshot menu from Ham, or if he goes directly to the fire rod.
Yeah, no. So the blue boomerang is actually quicker than the hookshot. The downside of the blue boomerang, it's only quicker if you still do hookless Ganon. So it's one of those weird like tweener strats. Like if you're gonna do hookless Ganon, you might as well do fire rod to get the most amount of time saved.
Right.
But the boomerang is still a lot easier than the fire rod strats in Aga's Tower. So it's a strat I really don't recommend to many, especially like newcomers. I just recommend getting the hookshot because it's largely similar. But like Ham is one of the few people who actually does the boomerang stuff. But yeah, like I said, you still have to do the hard version of Ganon, but the actual strats in Aga Tower are a little bit easier and are only a little bit slower than Fire Rod overall. But certainly perfectly valid set of strats to do. It's a weird set to ever recommend to someone, really.
Yeah, so Ham has been. Unfortunately we missed a little bit of the first part of the fight, or at least I did. But Ham is in our second to last big RNG sync here in the Aghanim 1 fight. We do have to actually complete Aghanim's Tower. It is technically a dungeon. These blue balls that he has the chance to throw are responsible for...
Did he just get 0?
I think he must have, based on the timer that I'm looking at right now.
God damn it.
It was 2, Chad is saying, but I'm pretty confused because I was led to believe that that 6 was the only valid number, but it turns out that you can actually get 2.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird.
All right, I don't know. So he's actually going to be losing 6 seconds here. He did have 1 in his PB, but I have to see exactly what his Ganon fight was like. Looks like his Ganon was pretty decent though. But he's about 20 seconds ahead, dropping in here. Yeah, his PB was like a 150 Ganon, so we're gonna need not too many warps or not to lose too much time. He could probably get like 6 or 7 and still get one of those little teeny tiny PBs.
Yeah, so getting this nice RNG down here at the bottom of the screen, able to go for some really easy, chill double spins there to get his damage, rather than having to keep doing those little dash turn pokes.
Yeah, if you don't have the hookshot, you really want one of those 2 mid ones. Those mid strats for hookless are so good. Most runners actually choose to use them even if they have the hookshot.
Pretty friendly warps here.
I think he got 0. He's either 0 or 2. If he ends up on the bottom, it's an even amount. Unfortunately, he did get a blue Ganon. The nice thing about blue Ganon, though, like you can't get the spins pre-torch, but almost every single time Ganon will fall right into triples, which he didn't hear. So that was, I think, 4. Okay, I'm not counting. It's just things just keep happening so fast.
Yeah, at this point, though, having made it into Phase 4 of the Ganon fight, things are pretty comfortable here. You know, basically your biggest risk at this point is really just missing some of these triples. And almost invariably when that happens, it comes down to just not being able to get across the screen quickly enough with your sword charged. So it's really just a timing thing.
Yeah,
this runner's very comfortable with it.
It tends to be the top left RNGs that players will mess up on. So it looks like Ham is going to PB here. It's going to be about a little less than a 10-second PB. Not the greatest RNG at the end. I mean, it was good RNG. Like two blue ball. I mean, I would murder my mother for 2 fucking blue balls at this point. But he was running against one, so unfortunately he did lose a little bit of time there. But it looks like he is going to finish with a 12.50 overall. Yeah, and he'll be popping in here shortly.
Yeah, always happy to see a PB. We've seen a bunch of them in this tournament.
Ham has been due.
See another one
for a PB in this for quite some. I remember when Ham was going for the 112. It feels like ages ago at this point. And he got it, and he kind of put the category down for a while. So it's nice to see him back. Again, Ham was one of the guys that definitely have pushed this category forward a bunch. One of the guys who has really a lot of players kind of treat this as kind of like a little side category, something to do when you get tired of NMG. Ham's one of the guys that really sat down and put a lot of time and effort into this category. So this category would not look like what it does today without Ham. And now that he's joined us, I have to stop being nice to him because I wouldn't want to let him know about that.
Right.
No, you definitely don't make that public knowledge.
Yeah, no.
You'll never live it down.
Don't watch this back.
Oh no.
Yeah. But anyways, GG on the PB. I was just saying that is a long time overdue. That PB. Just a wee one, not the biggest one.
Yeah, you never want to PB by too much. That's what I've been told.
Yeah.
Quite the run. And for a second there, I thought you were gonna have the ye old save time in every split PB, but then I remember this is all dungeons and
yeah, and then the boss fights started happening.
Boss fight, the icebreaker. But yeah, just really solid run throughout the whole thing. You got the save the 20 million years on Skullwoods with that fence dash, so we got that nice gold there.
Exactly, that's the only reason it happened.
Yeah, literally the only reason.
Your PB does appear to be missing the 20-minute time save, so I'm not sure what's wrong with your timer. You'll need to look into that. But...
yeah, it's probably something to do with Windows being out of sync with time or something like that. It just makes it run slower. I don't know.
Yeah, clearly. I know you were talking yesterday about how bad your PB was up, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, it is.
You just kind of reversed where the shitty parts were.
You're exactly right. Yeah, it's pretty much exactly what happened here. Because I was going up against a pretty solid mid game for the most part, but early game was just very trash, and then had pretty decent RNG in my PB at the end. So any blue ball count over 1 is obviously time loss. So I was pretty happy to get less than 3. Obviously, I'm pleased with that, and obviously it upset Duck, so that makes me even happier.
That means greatly.
I approve.
Yeah, honestly, I felt good throughout the whole thing. I was honestly really nervous. Like my heart was pounding for pretty much the entire thing, but I was in a voice call with some friends, and they helped calm me down. So went pretty well. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, man. Honestly, aside from the cold stare fight, everything and even that wasn't so bad. But I mean, everything, I don't know, it felt like a very steady run. So I'm glad you kept it together.
It was very Ham run.
I was gonna say that's always my aim, and I think you guys know my style pretty well and how I like to play. So this definitely fits the mold.
Yeah, you had a little trouble with icebreaker. It was kind of interesting that you especially because you did the bomb. You had more Samarias available to try to retry it, but you went to try to fix it in the air right away, which I thought was maybe a little bit of an odd choice. I don't know if that's just...
The only reason was that by that point I had already menued to hammer, I'm pretty sure. So then menuing back to Samaria just kind of feels bad.
Oh, okay. That's one of the reasons I don't like that menu there.
That's totally legitimate. Legitimate concern.
I actually have just trouble with the kinematics of it, where I'm already doing B and downs. That going over to start actually makes it more difficult, just from a pure I'm a human with actual hands perspective.
Are you? That has not been confirmed as far as I know.
Yeah.
GG to Node.
Human.
Yeah, big ups for finishing out the 2 Helmodef.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I guess a little trouble in the... Well, I guess that looks like mostly RNG. But, the two Helmodefs, and then, I mean, besides that, it was a really solid run. This would have been I mean, if you take that out, you guys, this would have been an incredibly exciting race. I mean, you would have been
I will
right on top
say,
of each other.
I was obviously watching the restream, and I also had his stream up, and I saw the 2 deaths, and at no point during the run did I ever feel comfortable that I was actually going to win the race, because anything can happen in this category, and even until like after ice, I hadn't really settled down until that point, I think.
Yeah, I mean the two big scaries are Vidi and Colts there. Like both of those are big enough time losses that we definitely put Kaz right back in contention and probably put it within like RNG range.
Especially of a player of his skill level.
Yeah, I mean finishing +5 on this run for again, it's just, I mean, he got some really nasty Helma RNG. He got the yield pinned on the bottom of the wall in the first one, and then the second one is always interesting because you're almost more nervous because you don't want to, like, dying once is like that happens to everyone. Like dying twice is a pretty bad feel. So right now,
speaking of Node, we are joined by Nodes.
So do you want to talk about anything besides Helma? Kaz?
I think that's his answer.
Yeah, that might actually be the response. No, he doesn't want that. But yeah, we were just talking that like this is a pretty solid run, except for the double Helma death. Would have been right around that 112 line. It looks like maybe a little bit worse, but definitely. I mean, everyone knows that's what can happen in this run. So we did get to see a Ham PB though, so still an exciting match to watch.
Yeah, it was a bit sloppy otherwise, but it probably might have been better if I didn't die to Helma, just because it put me on tilt. But
I was kind of looking over, and it's like, are we just going to see the forfeit over here? Because we were mentioning, like, you guys had both clinched coming into this, so all that was really mattering, even honestly, the win didn't much matter except for bragging rights. It was just going to be time for seeding. So basically, once you get that first Helma death, like, you didn't have a whole lot to play for. Like, obviously, PB's dead and all that kind of stuff at that point. So it was nice.
I died to him in my first race as well, so I could have still improved my time. But
you did.
The second death really hurt.
Yeah, the second one was probably about the one. I was looking at screens like, are we just might be seeing a forfeit here? But thanks for finishing it out though. Yeah, like a little sloppy, and again, I think some of that slop was just because. You can't be. No one likes dying to Helma twice. It does make it hard to play good down the backstretch. But
I did Ganon's tower without a refill though, and didn't do the safety strat in MJ room. So that was.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. That's very nice. Yeah. So. I think that's more or less it for me. Like I said, it was a good run from him. Good run for you two guys. Just the one horrible thing that happens to everyone. So
yeah, did Ham PB'd?
Yeah, you got
by a small amount. Yes,
yeah.
I was at one point 45 seconds ahead, and then I went down to 8.5 ahead at the end. So, but PB's PB can't be too angry.
It's gonna be a nice. This is like the perfect Ham run to run against because you have so much time save in the back half. Like there is nothing you're going to reset at this point besides like the Helma death. Like it's like, oh no, I got like 3 minutes to save. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah. So. Shout outs to Node. It was a lot of fun to race, dude. Thanks for finishing it out after for the struggles at the beginning. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks to him for racing, and thanks to the organizers for putting it on. It's been fun, even though I've died horribly in 2 of my.
It's this category though, like even if the stuff really goes tits up, I guess it's still not that bad, and you're still having fun clipping around everywhere, and you don't have the normal NMG pain to deal with.
Yeah, you have a whole new set of If NMG is like Chinese water torture, this is just getting shot in the face repeatedly.
Wow.
Wow, strong encouragement for people to pick up this category.
This is some classic duck imagery here.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff. I just want to say GG to both of you guys again.
Yeah, thanks Emo.
Yeah,
and thanks Doug for doing comms. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, a PB is always good, but honestly, you know, I've said this in a lot of the races that I've commentated. I'm always really impressed by people who can suffer an early tilt and then actually hold on to anything as close to as much stability as Kaz did this run.
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
This game does not make that easy or comfortable, and so yeah, huge GGs to both of you, regardless of what the results show.
GGs, and I'll see you guys in brackets.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
I'll be right down there at the bottom in your first round matchup. I'm waiting for you.
Well, I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be fun. All right, I think that's us. That's us. That's it for us.
Both statements are true.
Actually, do you want to say anything about the groups, kind of when they're closing up and when the brackets are going to be starting?
Oh yeah, so we're pretty much running out. Just got a couple matches left. I think we have less than there's only 6 total. There's gonna be, I think, 3 restreams at this point, or no? There's only 2 restreams left.
No,
there's,
I think
one.
There's 3. There is 2 tomorrow and 1 on Friday, I believe.
Yeah, there's Fricker and Lanxion tomorrow, which is another just top matchup. It's going to be similar in hype to this one. Hopefully not similar in outcome to this one. And then also Kyong and Chex, which another is they were right next to each other in the seeding, so that should be a really good one. And then it's me and Glenn on Friday will be closing out the group stages. So most of that is going to be just playing for seeding at this point, getting some good times. You know, some people may have died to several things in the previous run, so they'd like to improve their seeding a little bit. So they should be exciting races, though. All 3 of them are, I think, should be really entertaining.
And when will the brackets actually be starting? Is it going to be starting immediately, or is there going to be a little bit of a delay?
Yeah, they'll probably we're going to try to turn them around as soon as possible. They'll probably like a 2 or 3 day gap.
Okay.
Hopefully we can get them started next week.
Okay.
And then we're also be looking to have a community race on Saturday for people that were in groups of 3 or had a drop and they need to make a makeup race. And it's also just going to be available open to the whole community. But if you need to put a time in, we'll be doing that as well.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, so I guess GG's to both greenHam and caznode. It was a great race. Thank you very much to apathyduck and emosaru. Always great commentary, and emosaru also makes it very entertaining as well, especially at the beginning. So
I'm glad you appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Excited to watch it back.
It's a perfect. I'm not even gonna say.
No, I might have to.
So thanks again. And we hope to see you for the races tomorrow and Friday as well. So take care, have a good night, day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and we'll see you soon. Bye.